Hello everyone and welcome to Thomson Road, Singapore for round 2 of the 2019 Sim Racing Online Series 2 of the Formula 1 Classic 1967 series. So far we are watching Tim Muttram as he starts his first flying lap in qualifying. Here's turn 1 over the crest of the hill, absolutely flying through the sky over the Thomson Mile. Fantastic air from our current championship leader as he breaks down towards the circus hairpin. This is, of course, the Thomson Road circuit in the middle of the Singapore jungle, through the back part of the circuit and towards the snakes, effectively the S's, but renamed due to the jungle setting of the circuit. It's a circuit that was opened in 1965 and used all the way through the late 60s and the early 70s, closed in 1973, and very unfortunately too, because it was an unusual circuit, but one that was a lot of fun to drive, and I drove it just now on a keyboard, and it was so much fun. Slight correction, it was actually opened in 61 and closed in 73. Whichever the case, hosted the Singapore Grand Prix in its early days, in its pre-Formula 1 iteration. As you see Tim Muttram here heading down towards Devil's Bend. I believe he's actually just passed the Devil's Bend, and he's now going through the long loop to the right. He's just about to head into the left-hander at Peak Bend, there it is, and towards the final corner, which is the range hairpin. Here you see it, it's downhill into the braking zone, past where all the cars are being stored, and then out onto the start-finish straight, which leads the cars all the way back to the start-finish line. So that is a lap of the Thomson Road circuit in Singapore, one of the first ever race circuits to host events at in Singapore. Sorry, a real classic circuit. It's a 148.904 from Tim Muttram, but that is actually a couple of, well, it's less than a tenth of a second slower than Matteo Santini in the Cooper, who tags the barriers on his next lap. But whichever the case, Matteo Santini currently leading us around. He's messed that lap up, so I'll go back to another person who may still be on a lap. I was very impressed in practice with Louis de Fourcroy. He's a driver that we haven't seen yet in the Sim Racing Online F1 Classic Series, yet making his debut today, he's certainly made an impression. He's certainly been impressive so far, and he's certainly a driver that we're going to be looking out for later today. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for Louis de Fourcroy. The Cooper, Yucca Drug was telling me before the race, looks very fast here at Thomson Road, and I was also being told by another driver that's because the cars with ballast tend to roll a lot more through the corners, and the Cooper, running with no ballast, is absolutely blisteringly quick here at the Thomson Road circuit. Incidentally, 3 of the cars have ballast for this series. We have the Lotus and the Eagle running 40 kilograms each, and the Ferrari running 30 kilograms each. That is after those cars were by far the strongest last season, and other cars such as the Cooper and the BRM and the McLaren couldn't keep up. Meanwhile, Tim Muttram has gone to the top of the times with a 148.419. Really not a bad qualifying performance there from Tim Muttram, the pole sitter and winner last time out. De Fourcroy goes up into 3rd place with that time. Let's have a look at who's coming towards the end of their lap. How about Yucca Drug? Currently only 8th, and that's because he hasn't set a competitive qualifying lap yet, but he will be hoping to change that. The reigning champion, who didn't put in a significantly Yucca Drug style performance last time out, and he was explaining to me between races that is because that's because the Lotus wasn't very competitive at the last round because of its ballast. Meanwhile, Yucca starting another qualifying lap. That last lap was not a competitive one, and he goes on to his first proper lap in the Graham Hill liveried Lotus 49. You see another Lotus 49 following him around, and that will be let's have a look back. That will be Steph Williams taking on the Lotus today. In terms of the championship, Tim Muttram is leading it with 10 points after the first round, followed by Phil Brown, Jukka Drug, John Vandergeest, and Max Shepard, the top 5. In terms of the championship as well, we have a different point scoring system for this series, as pole position and fastest lap are both worth a point each. So that means that whoever we see setting the fastest lap, as Steph Williams goes for a spin, whoever we see setting the fastest lap in this series will automatically bag themselves, or in this session, will automatically bag themselves 1 championship point. Heading towards the future rounds in the championship. This is round 2, of course, Thomson Road. We went to Riverside last week. Next week we will be at the Deutschland Ring, and then we will also be going to Bridgehampton, Charade, Longford, and Monza. Jukka Drug coming towards the end of his first timed qualifying lap. He's got a little bit of traffic up ahead of him, but that won't affect him because he's caught that very late in the lap. That's a Cooper, and that will be Louis de Fourcroy. And as Drug crosses the line, that only puts him 4th. So not seriously impressive yet from Jukka Drug. Can he? Okay, that was impressive. That jump there, that was very impressive. Can he go faster in his remaining qualifying laps? Let's have a look at Steph Williams, who, of course, was not able to put in a competitive qualifying lap that last time through, and he's going off. Oh my word, he's hit a lamppost, and I'm afraid that will be his last opportunity at setting a competitive qualifying lap. Steph Williams, I'm afraid, will not have enough time to get around and start another one. Here's Steen Tudor, currently 7th in the session. I want to find someone, Fabrizio Ferranti. Let's have a look in the late stages in the session at our pole contenders. Tim Muttram coming out to the final corner, attempting to go even quicker than his 1:47.557, which is significantly faster than anyone else's qualifying laps so far. He's coming towards the start-finish line and doesn't improve on his time. What about Santini? Santini does! Santini goes pole with a 1:47.470. Can Muttram, or anyone else for that matter, do anything about that? We're in the late stages in this qualifying session. Only one more lap from these guys is going to come in, and Muttram needs to make sure he doesn't get held up by Phil Brown here, as Muttram is quicker than Brown by several seconds per lap, and Brown has no obligation to get out of the way for him, although does anyway. And Tim Muttram, this is his last chance of the qualifying lap. Let's run on board with the slidey Brit. Look how sideways he gets through the corners. Tim Muttram, oh my word, absolutely steering it with the brakes and the throttle. And I tell you what, I noticed this last time. Whoa, as he gets very heavily over the grass, that was close. I noticed this last time at Riverside that he tends to steer out more than he steers into the corners. He has one of those very slidey driving styles. He drives it like a buggy. And I really, really love watching Tim Muttram really wrestling a 1967 Formula 1 car. Look at that! If you didn't have a trained eye, you'd thought he was spinning that. And I'm afraid he's backed out of it. So that's going to be the end of that lap for Tim Muttram. What about Santini? Can Santini improve on his own lap? He really doesn't need to. I want to find Fabrizio Ferranti if I can. Because Ferranti is still out on track. I could just click on his name, you know. There we go. Ferranti is not going any quicker. So Ferranti... Oh, wait, no, he was just braking into a hairpin. Excuse me. We're now into overtime. The session is coming to a close. And I want to go back and see if I can spot any drivers improving on their laps, if anyone is. What about Max Shepard? Shepard currently coming through in 10th place. I was speaking to him just before the race started, and he was telling me that he was seriously frustrated with this car, and he just can't set it up for this track. So let's see if Max Shepard can pull anything out of the bag in the last minutes of this qualifying session. He hasn't put in a competitive lap time yet, and as he crosses the line, it goes 9th. And that, I'm afraid, is the end of the qualifying session. Matteo Santini has pole position, and thus, with it, 1 point. And he was less than 1/10 of a second ahead of Tim Muttram in that session. It's Muttram second, followed by Ferranti, De Fourcroy, Drug, Van der Geest, Tudal, Brown, Shepherd, and then McClune, Williams, and Roos. And Carl Stieg, unfortunately, did not put in a qualifying lap, but may still start the race. So just a couple of minutes to go now until the start of the 45-minute race. Hello to everyone tuning in on YouTube, and I'm really looking forward to this 45-minute race from Thomson Road in Singapore. So the race about to get underway, and I can't find the drivers. That's a bit worrying. Let's watch it from this angle instead. The lights are coming on. It's Santini on pole in the Cooper, followed by Muttram in the Honda. Go, go, go! And away they head from the front of the grid. Finally, we see the cars again. And Santini looks as if he's going to lead us down towards turn 1. He gets the better start than Muttram. And he is going to be first over the crest of the hill. There we go. Crest in the hill for the first time. Dewey will make it over cleanly. A couple of drivers are expressing caution about that. And it looks as if all 13 drivers are still running in these early stages. That's good to see. Through turn 1 we go. And it's still Santini leading us around. Up into third place goes Ferrante. He's past the Fortron and makes up a place in all of that. But indeed, it's Cooper from Honda, and then Cooper, I think Ferrante has a Cooper. Yes, he does. Followed by Cooper, although De Forcron makes a mistake, and Drug goes up into 4th position there. And Drug is the leading Lotus at this point in the race. Steen Tudel currently 6th in the Brabham, and it's only the top 6 cars that score points in this race. Meanwhile, further back, I believe we're having a problem for Martin McClune. Indeed, McClune's had a spin across the road and appears to be having severe problems in his Eagle. Also problems for a couple of other guys towards the back of the field. But I think everyone's still more or less running cleanly in this race. And Tim Muttram gets extremely sideways and holds it there through the inner loop. That was fantastic there. Andrew Williams just reminding me to move my car off the grid. Thank you very much for reminding me to do that. There we go. That's all sorted. I think it was out of the way anyway, but Rory's managed to check. Santini still leading from Muttram at the end of the first lap of racing. The gap looks as if it's going to be about 6/10 of a second as they cross the start-finish line for the first time. We'll keep an eye on the gaps. Indeed, it's Santini from Muttram, then Ferrante, Drug, De Forcron, Tudal, then the leading Eagle, John Van der Geest. Then it's Brown, Roos, Stieg in the McLaren, Shepherd, and then Steph Williams, who's been through the pit lane, and Martin McClune. Not sure where McLean is. He's gone through. There he goes in 12th position. And everyone continues to run except maybe Williams. I don't know if he's out of the race or not. But whatever the case. Rakim says, wow, that looked amazing by the Honda. I take it you mean Muttram's incredible, impressive slide through the inner loop. That's just how Muttram drives. That's his driving style. And it's utterly fantastic to see. You could really do that in a 1967 F1 car. It was a car of axes. And Tim Muttram getting very, very sideways on his, as you see him demonstrating again. Not quite so much that time, but still quite a lot. That was Devil's Bend there. But they are heading up now towards the inner loop again, so we'll see if he demonstrates it a second time. This is very much a kind of car you very much just point into the corner and then accelerate and all-wheel drive. There you go. Look, he does it again. He does it every single lap. That's just how Tim Muttram drives. Little bit of understeer on the exit of the corner that time though from Tim Muttram. Not quite as good as he was last time around. Let's have a look now at Yucca Drug hounding Fabrizio Ferrante for that third position at this point in time. Ferrante in the Cooper, Drug in the Lotus. They've also got another Cooper of De Forcron on the tail. The Joe Siffert livery Cooper, that is. as Matteo Santini meanwhile sets the fastest lap of the race, as he would do, as that is the second lap. Fastest lap, of course, also worth 1 point at the end of this race. Look at them get air every time they go over that jump, and Drug is well and truly in the slipstream of Ferrante, goes to the inside of the hairpin and goes through. Very nice overtaking, out-braking maneuver into the circus hairpin, and he's made it stick. And now behind him, Ferrante is coming under attack from De Forco. Although managing to hold him off for the time being. I thought we were about to see a double overtake there, as Ferrante looked to be getting swamped, and he gets very sideways there towards the snakes, but manages to keep it more or less under control. De Forcron weaving around behind him as well. The Cooper, I've always said this, but the Cooper, very much the slidiest car in the field, might well actually be the best car for this circuit. Might be the best car to all-wheel drift its way around the Thomson Road circuit. And a lot of other guys were saying that before this race. Yucca Drug himself said that the Cooper was just so strong here, and he didn't expect to be able to challenge it. But anyway, whatever the case, Ferrante and De Forcron continue to fight over 5th position at this point in time. Ferrante dropping off the back of Drug a bit, and I'm wondering, maybe now that Drug has got clear of Ferrante, will he be able to start hunting down Muttram and Santini, who are in their fight for the lead still? Meanwhile, Muttram has been gaining back onto the rear of Santini's car. He set a much faster lap, almost 0.4 of a second quicker than Muttram that time round, as he takes flight. And Tim Muttram is definitely not done with this race yet. Of course, he won it last time out a week ago at Riverside by quite a significant margin. Took pole position, and then went on to win the race by 7 seconds from Phil Brown. Brown having a much more leisurely race so far in 8th position. But yeah, Muttram currently the championship leader. 9 points for a win, 1 point for a pole position. Santini, of course, took the point for pole position this time out. And of course, Santini didn't race last time out, meaning he's not fighting Muttram for the championship. So if Muttram has to miss around later on this year, that might well not be the case. And they continue to lead the pack as they head towards Devil's Bend once again. And sorry, they've just exited Devil's Bend. This is the Mon Route towards the end of the lap. More about the Thomson Road street circuit. I said it held the Singapore Grand Prix. Of course, that wasn't an official championship Grand Prix. It was, of course, run to Formula Libre. Also, a lot of Australian Formula 2 drivers raced in the classic Singapore Grand Prix as well. The circuit hosted the Singapore Grand Prix from 1966 through to 1973, seeing Singapore drivers such as Lee Han Seng and Rodney Xiao winning races in the Formula Libre cars, and then also Graham Lawrence won it 3 times in its Australian Formula 2 days. Meanwhile, further back, 11th place has been contested, and I believe that Carl Stieg has just had a brief off. Is his steering straight in the McLaren? Oh, it's not looking great for Carl Stieg. That car looks to be having some problems, especially under braking. But he continues on his way. Down in 12th place. Still 13 drivers remaining. That's good to see. And we want to see as many drivers finishing as we can. The top 6 score points, remember. Although you do also get a point for fastest lap. Other winners of the Singapore Grand Prix when it was held at Thomson Road include Gary Cooper, Max Stewart and Vern Schuppen. all Australasian drivers, all Australian drivers in fact. But yeah, whatever the case, it also held motorcycle Grand Prix, sports car and GT races, and other races of the like, and saw quite a few high-ranking drivers, and quite a few significant races. Although sadly, the track lost to history when it closed in 1973. It's 3 miles long, almost exactly, and one of its most significant features is that, the magnificent Thomson Mile. Meanwhile, we've had a change for the lead. In fact, they're scrapping for the lead, and I didn't know how close I didn't know quite how close they were there until I saw them changing places in the order. I think what must have happened there is that Muttram got his nose ahead of Santini in the straight, and then Santini was able to just outbrake his way back through to the lead. Also fighting are Tudel and Van der Geest. Van der Geest up into 6th place at present. Also, I'm afraid we've lost Brown. Oh, that's significant, as I'm afraid Phil Brown, who we just lost from the race, is 2nd in the championship. So a real championship contender, I'm afraid, has dropped out of this race very early on. Significant and unfortunate for Brown, and Jaka Drug will be, Tim Muttram will be rubbing his hands with glee about that one. But whatever the case, the lead fight rages on. Will Muttram be able to get close enough to challenge Santini again down towards the circus hairpin this time around? What I was saying was that one of the most significant features of this track, apart from its jungle nature and jungle scenery, is of course the magnificent Thomson Mile, which is the fantastic jump over a right hand kink. Just magnificent. Let's watch them go over it again with Tim Muttram in the slipstream of Santini. Here we go. Tim Muttram still sticking in Santini's slipstream. Will he be close enough for an outbraking manoeuvre towards the circus hairpin? Not quite close enough this time around. He was last time. They both take very different lines there. Santini took a more defensive line. Muttram took a more attacking line. And they still continue to run 1 and 2 in that order. Santini, Muttram. But definitely Muttram not letting him get away just yet. Still extremely hard-fought racing up the front, as we've seen all the time with SimRacingOnline. Of course, last season it was very much a Yucca Drug fest. Drug absolutely ran away with almost every race he started. Yeah, Zandvoort was closer, but Yucca Drug, of course, won all 6 of the 6 races he started. There were 7 races in the series, but he didn't start the 7th one, meaning he had a 100% winning streak coming into this into this series, because of course he didn't win at Riverside last time out. That, I believe, makes him the most successful driver in SimRacingOnline. In fact, he does. I'm looking at the rankings now, and indeed that does make him the most successful driver in SimRacingOnline. Rank 1, or position 1, sorry, rank 10.975 on the site, and of course last season's F1 Classic Series champion. An interesting driver in that actually is Santini, because Santini did race with us last season, however didn't make the first round of this year. Santini was a driver I was looking forward to seeing more of last year, as he tended to qualify really well and tended to be extremely fast, but just not able to bring the results in. There were a couple of races where he was running very high up the order, and then he had a big mistake or a spin or something. But whatever the case, Santini really showing us what he's capable of so far here today. Let's have a look back at the Coopers again. Ferrante and De Fourcroy still fighting. They've been together for this entire race so far. And Louis De Fourcroy is a brand new driver in this league. In fact, I don't even know if he's on the entry list. Louis De Fourcroy definitely a new driver in the series, and indeed, he is not on the entry list. So hopefully that doesn't cause too many issues. I'm not sure if that's allowed, but whatever the case, Louis De Fourcroy in the race despite not being on the entry list, and oh well. There's been a change for 11th. Martin McLean's dropped behind Steph Williams. And he continues to run in 12th position. There's Jens Roos in the Brabham. Meanwhile, Santini really pulling away from Muttram and sets a new fastest lap of the race in the process. He is desperate to get away here. Also, we are close, heading down towards the Circus Hairpin for 4th and 5th place. Look at those two over the crest. Just 3/10 of a second separating them. And De Fourcroy looked as if he might have a look at Ferrante there, although certainly didn't get the better exit to the jump. Lost a couple of tenths of a second towards the end of the straight. But that's definitely a fight that's not over yet. Excuse me there, just having a quick drink of water, but we are back, and still it's Santini leading from Muttram, Drug, Ferrante, De Fourcroy, Van der Geest, and that is after the first 50 minutes of the race there, followed by Steen Tudel. Then it's Shepard, Roos, and then Stieg, and we've had a change for 11th as McLean has made his way back up past Williams. And they're about to be lapped by Tim Muttram, heading towards the hairpin. Ooh, Muttram getting a little bit held up in all of this as well, losing about a second. That was not a good place to catch back markers, and Williams is going to take advantage of that and get past McLean in the process. Oh, and McLean spins into the trees. Oh my word! Actually spins back onto the track. He was lucky not to get in anyone's way there. Let's have a look back to Louis De Fourcroy, again in the slipstream of Fabrizio Ferrante as they head over the crest, and goes to his inside now down towards the Circus Hairpin, and De Fourcroy might finally be making his move. Does he get the car slowed in time? You saw it kick sideways there, and obviously he had his brake bias in exactly the right place because he's managed to make it stick, and Louis De Fourcroy claims 4th position from Fabrizio Ferrante. A good move, and he continues on his way. Excuse me. So the top 5 order now: Santini, Muttram, Drug, De Fourcroy, Ferrante. And who's this getting involved? That's Steph Williams. Steph Williams is a lap down, and luckily they both managed to get past him without too much issue. There we go. Nicely done. And all done and dusted there. Let's ride on board with for a bit with our current race leader, Matteo Santini. He's got a little bit of traffic coming up. That's a McLaren. That will be Carl Stieg, although Stieg gets out of his way really quite nicely. As we're about to go on board for a full lap of the Thomson Road circuit, providing nothing else happens. Across the start and finish line, start the stopwatch. Up through a very steep crest, hardly on the brakes at all. Santini flies over the Thomson Mile and then brakes towards the Circus Hairpin. accelerating up the hill, kicking the car sideways. And now we head through turn 3 to the left. And then we have the snakes. Of course, very aptly named snakes, since we are effectively in the middle of the Singapore jungle. And down towards Devil's Bend. It's a tricky sounding corner, and it's a pretty deceptive corner as well. You don't know quite how tight it is until you get there. Now up the hill again, up through the gears, towards an unnamed 90-degree left-hander. There it is. Kicking the car out and around long loop. And long loop is called long loop because it's long and it loops around. Duh. Peak bend to the left, and then we kink out towards the right. Range hairpin is the final official corner. And we head down the hill again. And that was a lap of the Thomson Road Grand Prix circuit, on board with our fantastic race leader, Matteo Santini. Now let's have a look back at Tim Muttram, always a very entertaining driver to watch. He's in the Honda, which of course won its first outing at the 1967 Italian Grand Prix, and has no bias attributed to it in this race. Oh my word, look at that! Keeping the accelerator on almost the entire way around the hairpin. That's why Tim Muttram is my favourite driver to watch in this series. Utterly, utterly brilliant. Yeah, crucially, the top 2 drivers in this series are driving cars with no bias, as I think Muttram just made a slight mistake there and ran wide there. He did indeed. He lost about a second in all of that. Running wide, almost touching the barriers. Luckily kept it together, as he drops to over 5 seconds behind Santini now. Wow. But yeah, as I was saying, the top 2 cars running completely bias free, as they struggled a bit last season. Whereas the top car with bias is Yucca Drug in 3rd place in the Lotus 49. And also, other cars with bias include the Ferrari, who no one has, and the Eagle. The top Eagle at the minute is John van der Geest, although also driving Eagles, Max Shepard, and I think Martin McLoone. The Honda, of course, only ever won one race in its career, and that was the Italian Grand Prix with John Surtees. Of course, sorry, ignore me. Yeah, the Honda in the 60s, renowned for being one of the strangest looking cars. Has a very short wheelbase relative to some of its rivals, and quite a long overhang at the front. And Tim Muttram has really overshot it there into the circus hairpin, but he doesn't care. Just flicks it in, and that's just spectacular. Meanwhile, here is Louis de Foucault, making his debut in the SimRacingOnline series. I'm not sure though if he's allowed to be, because of course he is not on the entry list, and that may cause some issues later on with the championship standings or whatever. I'm sure it's going to be sorted out. I hope it will be anyway. But yeah, whatever the case, it's a little bit confusing. And he is in the Joe Siffert liveried Cooper. Joe Siffert, of course, famous for unfortunately dying in a Honda in 1968. No, he wasn't. I am getting him confused with Joe Schlesser. Schlesser, sorry, that's difficult to say. He actually died in 1971 in a Brandt Hatch. Although Louis de Fourcon showing us exactly how that car should be driven at this point in time. The second Cooper on the road, of course, behind Santini, who is the leading Cooper. And you see Fabrizio Ferrante in the background there. De Fourcon has been getting away from Ferrante a bit. Although, of course, it takes time. Back to what I was saying about Joe Schlesser. He was killed at the French Grand Prix in '68 in the brand new Honda RA30, which was going to be the '68 one. John Surtees drove the car and said it was a death trap. They didn't listen to him. And unfortunately, Joe Schlesser ended up being a victim of that. It was a very dangerous era for racing because effectively these cars were just bullets, and the drivers were almost wearing their engines as a backpack. In fact, they weren't even doing that. There were no seatbelt straps until I think '69. I think. Don't quote me on that. Meaning that safety really wasn't something that was considered or thought very highly of back in the day. I bring this up every race, but just look at the cars, look at what the highest point is. Yeah, that's right, it's the driver's head. They didn't have much of a helmet to protect them either. You can see it opens there at the front. And those goggles, while they may look sturdy, they weren't going to stop a stone, as Helmut Marko found out. So yeah. It's a good job that we now only race these cars on simulators and not in reality. They were absolutely deadly pieces of machinery. Meanwhile, Martin McLoone looks as if he's just come out of the pit lane. That's a little bit worrying. So McLoone, who's about a minute and a half down from Williams, appears to have had a trip through the pits. Indeed, yeah, 3-minute lap time. McLoone really struggling. But it's a good job that he's still going. It's good to see 12 of 13 starters still running in this race. The more the merrier, as they say. Meanwhile, we now have less than 20 minutes remaining in this race, as McLoone locks up his rear wheels into the circus hairpin. Not much longer to go. Hello to everyone watching along in the on the YouTube stream. If you're watching and if you're enjoying, make sure to leave us a comment. And I will read out as many of them as I can, probably all of them, as the race progresses. Currently, we've had Andrew Williams and Raccoon. Hello to both of you, and I'd love to see you tuning in as we continue to watch Martin McLoone in the Eagle, and he's going to have to get out of the way soon. Because I think that's Jens Roos is coming through. Indeed, that was... I was actually Steen Tudel. So Steen Tudel going through in his Brabham. Tudel currently running in 7th position. Says Tudels, and Martin McLoone goes off. Now, is that going to be the end of the race for McLoone, who stuffed his rear end into a plant? I'm afraid, indeed, that is. I think that might well be the end of Martin McLoone in this race. That's a shame to see. He was running last anyway, but whatever the case, still a shame to see a driver retire. Here is Stefan Tudel, by the way, in the Brabham. Just looking back on the stream of what happened at McLoone, it seemed as if he just overshot it. I think that was a peak bend, maybe? And just slid straight into the plants on the outside. Unfortunate to see, and I think that's the end of Martin McLoone. Back to Steen Tudel though, running in 7th place and doing everything he needs to be doing at the minute, because if a driver goes off ahead of him, then he's in position to score at least 1 point for 6th place. Points go down to 6th place, of course. Of course, he could also score a point for fastest lap, but that is currently well and truly in the hands of Matteo Santini and doesn't look to be going anywhere, at least yet. So Matteo Santini currently on form for maximum points for the first time in this league of pole position, the win and fastest lap. That's a hat trick, although I can't speak too soon because we still have over 15 minutes of this race remaining. Still a lot could happen. Now that would be one way to get Santini's championship challenge started. I'm not really sure if he's going to be able to challenge for the championship this year since he didn't make the first round at Riverside, but hopefully he will be able to. I suppose it all depends on his rivals. It depends on what Muttram does. It depends on what Drug does. Meanwhile, we've just seen confirmation that McLean is out of the race as he's disconnected from the server as a whole. And that's a big shame for Martin McLean. But we still have 13 drivers remaining in this series, as I've suddenly developed the hiccups. Excuse me. Let's see if we can find another Steph Williams. Currently last of the runners in 11th place in the Lotus, but again, it's still good to see drivers finishing this race. I'm also going to call out Max Shepard after this race because he told me that he would almost definitely be out of the race in the first 5 minutes, and after half an hour he's still running, so I'm going to pick him up on that one after the race, definitely. Never doubt yourself as a racing driver. You can say you're struggling, but never say you can't do anything, because there's this thing that happens when the race starts sometimes where everything just clicks. I've had that plenty of times. Everything just suddenly clicks, and then all of a sudden it goes okay for you. He's still out of the points at the time being, but of course all he needs is for 2 guys ahead of him to drop back or make mistakes big enough to put them out of the top 6 and behind Shepard. Although everyone doing a good job of keeping it clean at this point in time, still only 2 retirements, which is great to see. It's a really nice track, this Thomson Road circuit. I was driving it using a keyboard just before it started, and I can never usually do that. And this time I managed it, and it was actually so much fun. Ooh, Steph Williams very nearly running off the road there, making a slight mistake through the long loop, running a little bit wide in his Lotus. The Jim Clark livery Lotus, of course. And Jim Clark was probably the fastest driver in 67, but lost out due to consistency. As was the Lotus 49. Colin Chapman's mantra was that suspension was the way forward, and that massive engines were for manufacturers who couldn't design chassis. Enzo Ferrari used to say it the other way around. Meanwhile, change for 10th place. Now what's happened to Carl Stieg? Well, there's Williams, who's just gone up into 10th. And Stieg, I think, has had a big off. Yes, he has. Look at that steering. And he is just coming up towards the circus hairpin, so I'm afraid he is going to have to pull off into the bushes. And either, well, it looks as if that's going to be our 3rd retirement of the day from Carl Stieg. That's a shame. 10 cars remaining. There is a chance he can make it back out again. You can do that in the simulator, but whatever the case, it's going to be tricky. Back to Tim Muttram, still powering the Honda. fantastic. Number 14 Honda was of course driven in 1967 by John Surtees. Though Surtees didn't make every round of that year, so I'm just going to check if there was another driver who may have driven that car. The Honda note was only driven by John Surtees in 1967. Not even any customer cars, that's interesting. Continues on his way. Very, very slidey, but you can do that in these cars. Notice the grooved tyres as well. Slick tyres wouldn't come in until 69. And that meant, of course, that the tyres could last several races at a time. I remember when doing the classic Formula 3 championship that we did with SimRacingOnline, I noticed at the end of every race that the tyres just hadn't gone off at all. I think I only used about 10% of the tyre life every race, and those were 25-minute races. They really did make fantastic tyres back then. They made tyres that provided you with all the grip you needed, while also allowing you to kick out your rear end also when you wanted, and just do whatever you liked with it. It was a really great era for racing cars, and although cars were very, very dangerous back then, and I wouldn't want to race them in reality, on a simulator they're spectacular. Tim Muttram still continuing to impress. Of course, last time at Riverside, absolutely dominated the race from start to finish. May well have come from Grand Prix Legends. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Grand Prix Legends, of course, the 1967 F1 game that came out a long time ago, that a lot of drivers in this league came from, and also that the cars in this league are based on. Fastest lap we just witnessed there from Tim Muttram. That was an amazing, amazing time. 148.194. That's pretty much qualifying pace. Absolutely incredible from Tim Muttram. Here's Yuka Drug running third place. And he'll argue he may well have done even better than this, but for the ballast put on the Lotus. And Drug, I expect, probably isn't used to not winning. But whatever the case, still doing a great job in third position. He's third in the championship at the minute, but will move up to second due to Brown's misfortunes. And Drug is another driver who always knows exactly what he's doing. Just look at the way he poises his car. And you can really see the difference between the Lotus and the Honda. To drive the Honda or the Cooper quickly, it's about kicking it out on its axes. It's about getting the rear sideways and all-wheel drifting your way through the corner. With the Lotus, it's more about suspension. It's more about knowing where your wheels are and driving it like a leaf, effectively. I don't know what I mean by that, but basically just feather it through the corners. Dip the nose where you want it to go. It's less so much, oh, as a Honda goes off ahead. And was that Muttram? I believe we've just had a big mistake from Tim Muttram. Indeed we have. Muttram, I think, spun out of the hairpin there. And he's lost several seconds and all of that. That was the range hairpin. And I think he'd had an off to the inside. Now 9.4 seconds behind Santini, who has some real breathing space now. Still 4 seconds ahead of Drug, but he's Takation in lap 1 that damaged my car. Was very pleased with my car setup and was capable of doing okay. Pity. You have no luck, Martin. I'm so sorry to see that, but yeah, you just have absolutely no luck. The F1 DNF series isn't going great for you. This isn't going great either. And I'm really sorry to see that, because you deserve more than that, and that's a massive shame. Anyway, excuse me there, just taking another sip of water, and just watching Yucca Drug in the Graham Hill Lotus. Notice the camber on these cars. The front camber, very, very negative on Yucca's car. Just look at how the tyres lean into each other. And effectively, how that works is that when the car goes through a fast corner and rolls on its wheels, if that makes sense, so kind of leans over on its wheels, more surface area stays in contact with the road. With the rear wheels, you didn't need to do that quite as much because they were so large. But with the front wheels, they tended to put a lot of camber on them back in those days, as you saw from the Lotus there. And as you can sort of see from the Cooper as well, maybe not to the same extent, but there's definitely still more camber on that Cooper than there is on a modern day, or most modern day F1 cars. Into the circus hairpin goes Fabrizio Ferrante. Ferrante is currently, let me double check. Ooh, as he passes Steph Williams. Lap Steph Williams, nicely done. Ferrante is currently 6th in the championship after finishing 6th last time out. Here's Jens Roos in the only Brabham in the race, I think. Currently running in 9th place, haven't really seen much of him yet today. He is in the number 1 car, which would have been driven by Jack Brabham in his gold helmet. Brabham, of course, always raced with a gold helmet. And has Roos just gone into the barrier? I think he made a mistake there. I don't know if he reached the barrier or not. Oh, he's going off again! Very close there into the grass. That was a little bit close from Roos, and it looks as if he's struggling. But anyway, just 3 minutes remaining in this race, and Santini sets the fastest lap of all. Fantastic fast lap there from Matteo Santini. 1:48.079 takes the fastest lap point away from Tim Muttram. And is back on track for his hat-trick. This would be an incredible result from Matteo Santini if he was to pull it off. Jens Roos, meanwhile, currently 8th in the championship after finishing 8th last time out. No points for him yet, and if he finishes 9th in this race, there will be no points for him yet again, which would be a little bit disappointing. But it certainly won't be his last opportunity. Roos, of course, very recently, our Radical SR3 Eurocup champion, as well as our SRO Formula E champion. He's also the Australian Supercars champion from SimRacingOnline, so he's won a couple of titles with us and done some really good things with us in the past. Meanwhile, Steph Williams is in the pits, sorry. I think we only have 9 drivers remaining, and Roos has gone off and into the wall. It looks as if Roos locked up his front left there, got up onto the curb and onto the grass, and then there was no stopping it. And into the barrier he went, and is there damage for Jens Roos? I'm not entirely sure. Maybe slightly. He's still continuing on his way. But yeah, possibly slight damage. And he's going to have to... Oh, he's off the road again and in the barrier. And he's going to have to give way for another Brabham. So excuse me, there are 2 Brabhams in the race. And that is Steen Tudor. Yeah, of course it is. Sorry, completely forgot about Steen. My apologies, Steen. We are on the final lap of the race. Here is Matteo Santini, the driver who has dominated this entire race. Pole position, fastest lap, has led every lap. There was one occasion where he came under attack from Muttram earlier on, but didn't let him get through, didn't let him lead a lap. Therefore, this will count as a pole to flag victory from Matteo Santini. It's been an utterly dominant performance. No one has been able to catch him. Ooh, I am almost speaking too soon there as he dips Wilson into the grass. Meanwhile, just before the end, Martin McLuhan says, on holiday next week, so missing the next one. Sorry to hear it. It's easy to get dragged off to the right under braking there. Bad luck, Jens. Indeed, it is. But let's watch Matteo Santini as he heads now towards the hairpin, towards the range hairpin for the final time in this race. The timer has now ticked to 0. Here's Peak Bend for the last time. And then he only has one hairpin to go. And Matteo Santini, utterly dominant, utterly fantastic, is going to take Cooper's first win in this series and also his first win in the series. Matteo Santini out of the final corner and down the start-finish straight as he wins here at Thomson Road in Singapore. Fantastic race from Matteo Santini in his first outing in this championship. Tim Muttram is second to consolidate his championship lead. Yuka Drug is going to finish third. There he goes. Louis de Faucon on his first outing in the series is going to be fourth, followed by Fabrizio Ferrante, and the final point is going to go the way of John van der Geest in 6th place. And I don't think anyone can challenge Matteo Santini for fastest lap either, so it is going to be a hat-trick for Matteo Santini. Utterly fantastic. John van der Geest is going to claim the final point in 6th position there in the Eagle. There he goes. The Eagle is really struggling here today. And the final driver on the lead lap is Steen Tudal, who comes out of the final corner himself to finish 7th, sorry. Last driver on the lead lap. And he crosses the start-finish line now. And then the last driver to finish is going to be Jens Roos in 9th. Meaning that Santini is our winner, followed by Muttram, Drug, De Faucon, Ferrante, van der Geest, Tudal, Shepherd and Roos. And then our non-finishers were Williams, Steeg, McLuhan, and most significantly, Phil Brown, second in the championship coming into this round. Not finishing the race today, and that's going to significantly hamper his championship standings, which is a massive shame. But whatever the case, that's it from Thomson Road here today, and a very good performance from Matteo Santini. Join us in a week's time from the Deutschland Ring in Deutschland, of course, Germany, obviously. That's going to be taking place in a week's time. We're expecting a larger grid. And it's going to be a very good round, just as this one was, I'm sure. See you then from me, your commentator, Caitlin Penny, and from SimRacingOnline. It's good night, and we will see you next time. Good night.